mentioned a minute ago that their lifestyles may change as they age. So we need to consider elderly provisions when aging. Now, this should be taken into consideration not only if the parties are young, but especially if they're older. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, probably 50% of your clients will be those who have already been divorced and likely older. And they're going to start thinking about, and if they haven't, you need to remind them about what's going to happen as they age, as they retire. Will they need some sort of residential assistance? Will they need to go into a home, an elderly home? They will have more medical bills, likely. Do they have any health issues or health concerns as they age? This is something that you're going to have to provide for in the prenuptial agreement. You're going to have to detail what accounts are they going to use for medical bills, medical debt that maybe their health insurance isn't going to cover, and we all know that can be very costly and the thousands upon thousands of dollars, even if they have health insurance. And again, this might go into helping them establish an estate plan at the same time you're dealing with the prenuptial agreement. You also need to provide for not only what accounts they're going to use in case they do have these medical bills, but what's going to happen if, heaven forbid, one of the spouses dies and they haven't handled the medical bills. They haven't handled the liabilities. Who's going to pay for that? Will that come out of the separate property of the spouse that passed away? Will that come out of joint funds? You need to provide for this. And again, this is where you really need to talk to your clients about what they want, what they don't want, what they don't think will be fair at the end of the day. You also not only have to consider how they're going to live their life during their marriage and how they're going to take care of those bills. But let's say someone passes away during a divorce case, especially if they're older. And in that divorce case, you're going to be dealing with liabilities. But if someone passes away and the parties are still married, it's going to be considered a joint liability. So you need to make sure if that happens that you provided for that in the prenuptial agreement so that the person who is surviving, yet wanting to have divorced that spouse that just passed away, they're going to be stuck with those bills. So in the prenuptial agreement, you're going to need to have indemnification agreements written into it. And sometimes you might even have them attached at the back as an addendum, indemnifying the surviving spouse from the liabilities of the spouse that passed away. That will not only help you in the divorce context, but it will help you if they pass away and what happens to those liabilities in order to keep the surviving spouse's separate property protected. I had a client once who was marrying a much older man, and he was retired. So really they would be living during their marriage upon her income. And she was worried that her income would start going to his medical bills, or if he ever needed an assisted living facility, she was worried that her income would go to that. She had no problem providing and helping him during the marriage. But she did not want all of her hard-earned income, because she was much younger than him, to go toward the medical bills that she already knew he was going to be needing. So we had to lay out within the prenuptial agreement that any medical bills, that any assisted living facility that he may have to go into would be paid for by his separate property. We defined what that separate property was, and we had agreements and indemnification agreements built into that prenuptial agreement. Again, the prenup certainly contemplates a divorce, but it also is a contract between these two people as to how they're going to live, what they're going to keep separate, and what financial burdens they're not going to place on the other. It's not just a contract for in case of divorce. It encompasses